Hi, I'm Reb Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years. This year, I'm going through the lessons, and I'm asking Jesus to clarify for me. And then I write whatever that clarity brings me. And so let's get started. Looking at lesson 86. These ideas are for review today. Paragraph 1. Only God's plan for salvation will work. It is senseless for me to search wildly about for salvation. I've seen it in many people and in many things, but when I reached for it, it was not there. I was mistaken about where it is. I was mistaken about what it is. I will undertake no more idle seeking. Only God's plan for salvation will work. And I will rejoice because his plan can never fail. Paragraph 2. These are some suggested forms for applying this idea specifically. God's plan for salvation will save me from my perception of this. There is no exception in God's plan for salvation. Let me perceive this only in the light of God's plan for salvation. I'm never going to find salvation outside my mind. So many times I've looked for it in other people, in money, in what money buys. I am absolutely certain of where it cannot be found. Now I have chosen God's plan for salvation. That plan is in my mind, and so it is always available to me. For as long as I am interested in the world of the split mind, I will need to implement God's plan. I don't do this. It is a joy to remember the truth and to do the practices that help the sleeping sun awaken. Because without a doubt, there is only the one sun of which we are aspects. What I put into the mind is shared by everyone and produces form that makes up the world we seem to be inhabiting. Today, I take joy in reminding myself there is no exception in God's plan for salvation. There is no thought that I will not be saved from as I realize it in the light of God's plan for salvation. Paragraph 3, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. Holding grievances is an attack to prove that God's plan for salvation will not work, yet only his plan will work. By holding grievances, I am therefore excluding my only hope of salvation from my awareness. I would no longer defeat my own best interest in this way, in this insane way. I would accept God's plan for salvation and be happy. Paragraph 4, specific applications for this idea might be in these forms. I am choosing between misperception and salvation as I look on this. If I see grounds for grievances in this, I will not see the grounds for my salvation. This calls for salvation, not attack. That's an interesting first sentence, isn't it? When I hold a grievance, it is an attempt to prove God's plan won't work. This states unquestionably that I am deliberately trying to prove God's plan won't work. In so doing, I'm excluding my hope of salvation from my awareness. In other words, I am blinding myself to the only thing that will work. That is patently insane, and I am not completely insane any longer. That's why I fully accept that I must release all grievances without regard to the situation. There are no grounds for accepting a grievance. The cost is just too great. The cost is my salvation. So thank you so much for sharing this lesson with me, for watching my video. And if you found it helpful, then please subscribe and like it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow with another lesson.